America built 21 of these, and then it stopped building them forever. Not because they stopped working, because of what each one ended up costing. Have a guess at the number before I say it. Most people guess 200 million. Some guess 500. Counting everything it took to get there, each one comes out near $2 billion. When it was new, people said it cost more than its own weight in gold, and that was true. But here's the part almost nobody knows. The aeroplane never got more expensive. Something else changed, and it was not the aeroplane. Start with what America actually ordered, because the first number was not 21. The original plan was 132 of them. Then the Cold War ended, the reason for building them ended with it, and the order was cut down to 21. Now think about what a company has already spent by the time an order gets cut. The design is finished, the factory is built, the tooling is made, the engineers were paid. Roughly $20 billion had already gone into getting the first one to fly. That money is spent whether you build one airplane or 1,000. So the price per aircraft is not really a price, it is a division problem. Take that $20 billion and share it across 132 aircraft. That works out at roughly $150 million each before you build anything. Now share the same $20 billion across 21.
That is close to $1 billion each before a single bolt is fitted. Nothing about the aircraft changed, only the number you divide by. Add the cost of actually building each airframe and you land near $2 billion. Guess which number the newspapers printed. They printed 2 billion, and they were right, and it told nobody anything useful. Because the expensive thing was not the aeroplane, it was the cancellation. That still sounds like a government problem, so shrink it down to something small. You open a bakery. The oven costs $300,000 and you pay it once. You plan to sell 100,000 loaves a year. 300,000 divided by 100,000 loaves is 3 baht of oven per loaf. Now the town shrinks and you only sell 10,000 loaves. The oven still cost $300,000. Nothing about it changed. But now it is 30 baht of oven inside every loaf. Your bread did not get more expensive to make. Your customers left. Anyone looking at your price list would say your bread costs 10 times what it should. They would be reading a real number and drawing the wrong conclusion. Now scale that back up to a factory that builds aircraft, and you have the whole story. There is a second half to this that almost never gets mentioned. Guess what happens after you buy an aeroplane like this? You start paying for it every year for as long as you own it. The skin that makes it invisible to radar is not paint, it is a coating that has to be maintained.
It reacts to heat, to rain, and to anything that scratches it. So these aircraft live in climate-controlled buildings, not hangars, buildings with a thermostat. For years, there were only enough of those buildings at one base in the entire country. Every hour in the air needs many hours of work on the ground before it can fly again. An hour of flight costs somewhere in the region of $130,000. Fly one for 100 hours in a year, and the running cost alone buys a nice house. And this is the part that decides whether a thing is worth owning. The purchase price is a headline. The keeping price is the actual decision. Now take the whole thing out of the sky, because this is not really about aircraft. Every business on Earth has 2 kinds of cost, and only one of them behaves the way people expect. The first kind moves with how much you sell. More loaves, more flour. The second kind sits there whether you sell anything or not. The oven, the rent, the factory. Guess which kind decides whether a company lives or dies?
almost always the second one, because it is the one you cannot switch off. A company with almost no fixed costs can shrink to nothing and survive. A company that built a factory for 132 of something and then sold 21 cannot. That is why a shop with cheap rent beats a beautiful shop with expensive rent in a bad year. It is why a software company can double its customers without doubling anything else.
And it is why the same aeroplane can be either a bargain or a scandal, depending only on how many were ordered. So was it worth it? That depends on what you think was actually being bought. 21 aircraft cannot be everywhere. They were never meant to be. What they buy is a question that every other country has to answer. Somewhere out there is an aeroplane that radar has trouble finding, and it can reach anywhere. Nobody needs to see it for that question to change what other people do. That is a strange kind of purchase. You are not buying an aircraft. You are buying the fact that other people know it exists. Guess how many have been lost in an accident? 1 in 2008. Both crews survived. The airframe did not. That single loss cost more than most air forces are worth, and because the production line was closed, it could never be replaced. That is the last thing about fixed costs that people forget. When you cancel a line, you are not just saving the aircraft you did not build, you are giving up the ability to ever build one again at any price. America is now building a replacement, and the first lesson it learned was about numbers. This time the order is over 100, and the price per aircraft is a fraction of the old one. Same country, same kind of aeroplane, same physics. The only thing they changed was how many they promised to buy.